Welcome back to Believers IAS Academy, and in this today's session on species in news, we'll be discussing two important species. One is a plant species, which is Murikuti pacha, which has an immense medicinal property, which is being in use. And in fact, this is the recent discovery where they have classified or confirmed that it is natural healer of wounds, right? So hence it was in use. The second is an insect species called as cicadas. So this is also is what the topic that we will be discussing today. So let's begin. First is Murikuti pacha. So Murikuti pacha is pretty much like a plant which is reddish in color, the leaves, and in fact across India, if we have to see, in fact even if we just go back, even our grandparents and might have heard of talking mostly about how doctors were in their times, especially the traditional healers, always using or mostly using plant based medicines for their healing powers, right? And even all of this was at that time, even long before modern medicine actually gave them a scientific name. So one such particular plant which has such medicinal properties and is traced to the present relevance from centuries behind, from centuries ago, is this particular plant Murikuti pacha. Also in Sanskrit it is known as Vranaraponi, which also means healer of wounds, right? With its deep red leaves and delicate flowers, this particular small herb, it might look ordinary, but hidden underneath it is a powerful compound which makes this so powerful, or has all this traditional healing, or is even considered as a natural wound healer because of this particular medicinal property or a compound called as actioside, right? So this is what we will be discussing, right? So this is a great example to study of how traditional knowledge and modern science can meet to benefit the society, right? So talking about the plant, it is Murikuti pacha, Sanskrit name Vranaraponi, which also means wound healer. And talking about its botanical identity, it's also called as red ivy plant. And talking about its origin, it is mostly native to Southeast Asia and also found in tropical regions of India. And it looks, in terms of appearance, it is a very small herb with rooting branches, having reddish purple leaves and white flowers. And talking about the medicinal properties, actioside, very important to keep in mind, which owes or which gives the natural healing property to this plant with its natural bioactive compound. And it has so many benefits or so many important properties like anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and even antimicrobial properties. So traditionally it was used in folk medicine for treating cuts, wounds, and even certain skin ailments. And current research which was done in India confirms its scientific wound healing potential. Means the present generation or the present scientific research confirmed the already underlying property which was there from very long time, that now they have confirmed that even it's scientifically proved that it is a wound healing plant which has so much of potential filled in it. Now talking about the other uses and significance, it possesses hepatoprotective and neuroprotective benefits, which in a way protects your liver and also the neural connections in the human body and anything related to the neural system of the body. And it contributes the ethno-medicinal heritage. And talking about what ethno-medicine is, it is the traditional medicinal knowledge, right? Traditional medicinal or medical knowledge and healing practices, mostly which was common in the local communities, usually based on plants, herbs, and even some of the natural remedies. So it is contributing to the ethno-medicinal heritage. Heritage, why? Because it is the knowledge passed down through generations. In fact, it is also part of culture and also part of the community identity, right? So hence it has both ethnomedical or ethnomedicine, and also heritage kind of quality. So hence it is an ethnomedicinal, it adds to the ethnomedicinal heritage of tropical Asia, considering that this particular plant was in use in traditional, or was a traditional healer in tropical Asian regions for centuries. So it is part of the indigenous medicinal knowledge, right? So it is part of the indigenous medicinal knowledge as well. So that is also important, right? So hence it adds to the ethnomedicinal heritage for tropical countries, and also has potential for development into plant-based medicines and tropical treatments. That is sufficient from this particular topic. Now let's solve one prelims question. Consider the following statements about Murikuti Pacha. It is locally called Murikuti Pacha and known in Sanskrit as Ranarapani. It contains the natural compound as actioside, which has wound healing properties, and it is native to tropical regions of India and Southeast Asia. Which of the statements are correct? Use the comment section, leave your answers down. Now moving on to the next topic. Cicadas return to Kerala's Silent Valley National Park. So cicadas, I think sometimes nature has this weird way of reminding of its rhythms in the most fascinating and the most interesting ways. So now, Iman, people who have gone to treks, people who have been to Western Ghats, right, or any forests, mostly Western Ghats and forests in and around, and then suddenly, especially in the evenings, right, the entire forest fills with a loud, almost musical hymn, like a natural orchestra. So basically that sound is made by or orchestrated by this insect called as cicadas, right? So these insects are not just noisy creatures, but their arrival to any part of the ecosystem, it signals the health of an ecosystem, right? And it is in news because recently Kerala's Silent Valley National Park. So the Kerala's Silent Valley National Park recently saw the emergence of this particular species, or the return of cicadas, and this event highlights that both the importance of this particular insect to the biodiversity, and also the mystery behind this particular insect, right? So in this video, let's try and understand what this particular cicadas is all about. Okay, so what is cicadas? As we discussed, it's an insect commonly found in warm temperate regions, and it is mostly famous for their distinct loud songs produced by male cicadas using drum-like timbres. Of course, this is an important point, considering that you just have to remember that these sounds are usually made by the male cicadas. And talking about the life cycle, it has 3 stages. One is the egg, another one is the nymph stage, which usually is in the underground, and then it becomes an adult. So talking about the egg laying, female deposits egg in woody plant tissues. So basically, once the female, cicadas, it plants the eggs on certain leaves, right, of a particular tree or a plant, usually the trees. Once these eggs hatch, right, once these eggs hatch, the next stage comes the nymph stage, right, a small nymph, like pretty much like a silkworm, kind of a moth, right? All of these things, or these species, or these nymphs, they fall on the ground, and soon after they reach the ground, they bury themselves, right? They go underground, and this is the stage where most of the developments happen until they pop out of the ground as an adult. Now talking about this particular stage, the nymph stage, right, the underground stage, usually lasts for almost 13 to 17 years, starting from 2 years. So minimum is 2 years, and it ranges all the way to 13 to 17 years just to come out of the ground to become an adult, right? So that is very important with respect to this particular species. And talking about the egg laying, females deposit eggs in woody plant tissues, and these nymphs live underground for years, mostly ranging from 2 to 13 to 17 years, feeding on sap from plant. Basically, once these nymphs go underground, they catch hold of a particular root of a plant, especially the nutritious sap, the root from plant roots, and before emerging in mass events, they consume all of these nutrients from the plants, and then they emerge. So adults typically live only for few weeks, focusing on reproduction. So the 90% of its stage or the development or its life is underground as a nymph, and the moment it comes out, it probably lasts for a few weeks, which in that time it mostly focuses only on reproduction, right? Now, talking about its unique species, or so let's say unique features, some of the species show periodic emergence cycles. Example, North American species that emerge every 13 to 17 years, right? So this is one of the important point, that the emergence of these cicadas usually has a cycle, as a rhythm, especially as seen in North America, which usually happens for 13 to 17 years. And their emergence synchrony overwhelms predators, ensuring survival of large numbers. So the emergence synchrony is about all these nymphs which comes out of the ground. So this is the ground and this is a nymph. Once it completes this entire nymph stage for about 12 to 13 years, or let's say even 15, 16 years in some cases, the moment it comes out in very large numbers, right? Probably in thousands, and even 10,000s, even lakhs. So this particular emergence, the emergence synchrony, overwhelms predators like birds, right, insects, and this ensures survival of large numbers, right, ensuring survival of large numbers. So basically, the predators like birds, insects, they feed on all of these cicadas, the nymphs which they come out, and successfully, who obviously after few days, once these birds and insects are done eating them, and whatever is left over, they ultimately become the adult cicadas, right? And also, next point, it plays an important ecological role by aerating soil, recycling nutrients, and serving as food for birds, reptiles, and mammals. Considering the three stages that it undergoes, once it is in the stage of nymph, especially underground, it plays some important role in ecological role by aerating soil and also recycling nutrients. And once it becomes an adult, once it comes out, as we discussed, it serves as a meal, or let's say food for birds, reptiles, and even mammals. Now, let's solve one prelims question. Consider the following statements about cicadas. They produce sound using specialized organs called thimbles. Their life cycle includes a prolonged underground stage, which is called as the nymph stage. Only the females produce the characteristic loud song. Which of the statements given above is correct? Use the comment section and leave your answers. That's all for this particular video. I hope you have enjoyed the video and have understood about these two species. Anyway, that's all for this. And if you have still not subscribed to Believers IAS YouTube channel, consider subscribing. And until we meet the next time, signing off. This is Madan Gopal. Have a great day.